Cheryl to let me know when we're streaming. Okay, welcome everyone. I call to order this Committee of the Whole meeting for Tuesday, October 17th, 2023. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, I acknowledge that we are gathered in the heart of Treaty 7 territory of Southern Alberta. This land is home to the Blackfoot Confederacy, consisting of the Siksika, Kainai, and Piikani First Nations, also the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and our most adjacent Indigenous neighbors, the Stoney Nakoda, comprised of the Bearspaw, Goodstoney, and Chiniki First Nations. Further, we are located in the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. The town of Canmore is committed to working to live in right relations and to advance truth and reconciliation as we acknowledge the many Indigenous peoples whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. Looking to the agenda, looking to see if there's any changes. None. I'll then move that we approve the agenda for October 17th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting as circulated. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. And our first item is to go in camera for the Three Sisters Mountain Village Properties Ltd. Area Structure Plans legal advice. The recommendation is that Council take the meeting in camera to prevent disclosure of privileged information in accordance with Section 27, Sub 1, Sub A of the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. With that, I will move that we go in camera. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, we're now in camera, and Okay, we're out of in camera, and before moving on with the rest of our agenda, we're now going to take a break until 2:45. Okay, and we are back. And so we're now on to agenda item B1, Canmoreland. Ms. McClett, welcome to Committee of the Whole, and I understand you'll be introducing the delegation.
Very briefly. So with me here today are Donna and Ryan Houston, Simon Orrell, and Don Sunderstall, who have worked over the past number of months for the development of a land trust dubbed Canmoreland, and they're here to present what they're working on as information to Council. So I'm going to hand over the mic to Donna Houston.
Great. Ms. Houston, welcome to Committee of the Whole.
Thank you so much. I know Council has done their land acknowledgement, but before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the land we stand on and that the land we'll be speaking about specifically today. Indigenous peoples' presence in the Americas reaches back to time immemorial. We recognize that Indigenous peoples are the keeper and defenders of the land, animals, and water. We acknowledge the historical oppression of lands, cultures, and the original peoples in what we now know as Canada. We believe that the arts contribute to the healing and decolonizing journey we all share.
Great. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, and Administration, thank you for having us. I'm here today to introduce Canmoreland Community Land Trust, a nonprofit focused on acquiring real estate space of all kinds for the social benefit of the local community and its people. This entity is a culmination of years of individual community work within the arts, truth and reconciliation, business and real estate sectors, coming together and growing beyond the Town of Canmore Smart Start program and the Moving Mountains Community Initiative, in which we, the 4 founding members, all took part. I'm Donna Houston, Chair, and together with Simon Orrell, Don Saunders-Dahl, and Ryan Houston, we introduce Canmoreland. Canmoreland has been created on the premise of the 4 shared community values listed here. Land trusts foster shared values that a community can be permanently accessible, affordable, and sustainable, thus creating a thriving circular economy and preventing the displacement of vulnerable residents and workers. There are many groups and initiatives already focused on housing, each with their own respective and complementary directions. To be clear, in this real estate crisis, there is no discounting or competing with anyone. This has to be a community-wide effort. The Land Trust is interested in alternative strategies, looking for different ways to work alongside and in support of other community initiatives, all while still making its own impact that incorporates accountable, wise practices and that promote diverse economic inclusion within the real estate sector. For example, when looking at existing market gaps and needs and choosing projects that offer the greatest community impact, we don't have to look very far. The Town of Canmore Cultural Master Plan already identifies gaps that cross-pollinates real estate and the community through arts and culture, giving us a straight line to the highest impact opportunities. We're in a space crisis. We all know the types of real estate deficits and the affordability issues we face, and it's fair to say that everyone in this room is working on something related to the crisis. Housing gets a lot of attention, as does the last bit of remaining land. But the fact is the space crisis runs across all sectors of real estate. Real estate space is what's needed for living, community gathering, arts and culture, business, commerce, for local brands and foodies, light manufacturing, light industrial business, trades, services, youth hangouts, and local presence. It's more than just housing. This analogy is used to depict how we see Canmoreland fitting into the landscape. The boulders need heavy lifting. They're represented by the province and municipalities who deal with bigger things like land, ASPs, zoning, and regulation. You know this. Rocks are the organizations such as Canmore Community Housing and Bow Valley Regional Housing who manage and develop off-market units, and BODA, who brings together much of the real estate and construction sector under one umbrella of shared economic interests. That leaves the sand. Sand is the element that has seemingly endless pathways to fill the smallest of gaps. Sand is where Canmoreland's interest lies. The Land Trust has identified plenty of opportunities to fill existing gaps. The objectives are simple: to acquire real estate of any kind. There is no one-size-fits-all solution, and we need all sorts of problem-solving efforts, big and small. Canmoreland is interested in smaller opportunities, even if it's by 1 grain of sand at a time. Because removing even one property from future speculation effectively freezes the price of that property. In turn, we keep it in the control of the local community. We're prioritizing their needs and keeping it accessible. This enables permanently affordable solutions regardless of what's happening in the traditional real estate market. What is a land trust? A land trust is a community-led nonprofit that acquires and holds property in the interest of the local community. The Community Land Trust is a steward of space, ensuring the preservation of long-term affordable access for members of the community. Long-term affordability is protected by acquiring pre-existing real estate, including not only housing, but other identified gaps for locals within the retail and commercial sector, for micro-small business, and accessible arts and cultural space, including space meant for the Indigenous community. Community land trusts are popping up all over the country because communities are organizing and finding alternative solutions. There's differing types of land trust models, from purely land and environmental conservation to niche housing and other community space solutions. Through the Canadian Network of Community Land Trusts, we have been connected to many resources and examples through their knowledge-sharing platform. We know nothing compares to the Valley, but Muskoka, Ontario is an interesting case study, newly established in 2019, and we found they have a lot in common with in the Bow Valley, namely in similar socioeconomic and wealth inequity issues. They've been seeing great success early on. Canmoreland Community Land Trust is a missing piece along the housing spectrum. The main purpose of the Community Land Trust is that it creates a funnel for social and philanthropic gifts and donations to put towards solving local real estate issues specifically. Canmoreland has a long list of potential projects and opportunities, but the focus will be on the highest impact projects, which is why the arts and culture sector has been identified as a high area of impact due to the many interwoven community benefits and inclusivity that one single project can offer. The benefits include empowering the local community by providing the mechanism and expertise to do real estate different. Canmoreland comes from a different vantage point that offers different solutions. The focus being on smaller, nuanced projects and purchases with quicker turnaround times and less barriers. The biggest benefit being the creation of a new funnel for donations and social dollars to put toward real estate. Here's an example project. This is a pre-existing low-rise apartment located on a downtown desirable lot with future densification abilities. Had the Land Trust been able to purchase this and secure this property back in May, it would have continued status quo, keeping the locals in place till a longer-term plan could be determined, and that plan would take into account the existing tenant securities and low rents, which have not been increased in 6 years. There's rents as low as $1,000 a month in that building. Projects like this can be multi-phase and go through various renditions and transformations on its way to the property's highest and best use, but still providing long-term access and affordability of the property. This was another pre-existing space that could have been secured with the help of the Land Trust, and we certainly tried. This existing commercial space was an existing convert into a much-needed community space already identified through Dawn's Town of Canmore Smart Start business plan. In addition to the other many interwoven benefits, this property also included flexible zoning for future conversion opportunities, which included staff housing and temporary accommodation solution for artist residencies. This is another niche gap identified within the Bow Valley where the arts are now competing with tourists for affordable and available accommodation and face increasing costs and less access to space in order to provide these opportunities to the community, the arts, which is a massive GDP contributor and makes up much of our local identity. The arts and culture sector offers some of the highest impacts due to its broad, inclusive, and diverse community reach. The arts is also recognized as its own low-income and high-need category, which comes along with expert support and long-term benefits and numerous funding supports. Sorry, I stumbled there. But this sector offers long-term economic benefits through circular economies and by creating a sense of place, all of which leads to a resilient, self-sustainable community, one we wish to preserve outside of the real estate market. What's next for Canmoreland? Canmoreland's future can be summarized into 3 phases. Phase 1, introduction and community engagement, collaboration and info sessions. Phase 2, moving into fundraising, donors, and communications with a focus on storytelling and bringing real stories to light. Phase 3, projects and property acquisition. In order to bolster our initiative within the community, we are here to share our vision as we look to expand our board, community alignment, and partnership So we thank you for your time.
Great, thank you. Thank you for that presentation and for all of you being here. I'm looking to council or committee of the whole to see if there are any questions. Councillor Graham.
Thank you very much for your presentation. What is your biggest challenge in making this dream come to fruition?
Right now, we're definitely focused on having less barriers, and we have lots of opportunities already identified where our only barrier is truly money.
That would be every land trust. Imagine that.
Yes?
What I was going to guess, yeah. Great.
Thank you.
I'd say the approach that we
Oh,
wanted to take is that the answer to that question. Yes, sorry. The approach that we wanted to take was the answer to the question of what's your biggest barrier, we hope, shifts, right? So it started with, well, we don't actually have any kind of mechanism in place to go out and look for the sort of philanthropic funding that we're looking for. So the first barrier was, well, we don't actually have that mechanism. Well, now we do. So the next mechanism is going to be, well, nobody knows who we are, what we're trying to do. That'll be the next one. The next barrier after that, presumably, well, yes, will be, of course, finding philanthropists, people that want to leave legacy gifts, that sort of thing, and getting that in place so that we can bring this to fruition. So I hope that helps.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I just cut right to the chase.
Yeah, no, I know you did. Do you see this as competition to CCH?
As mentioned in the presentation, there's lots of opportunities and solutions, and we recognize what CCH is doing, Bow Valley Regional Housing, the town, and we want to work alongside them. We don't want to do what they're doing. They're already good at it. They're already established. They are doing big projects. Where we see us fitting is the smaller projects, the unique one-off solutions, the nuances of the market. Yeah, not competition at all. We're different completely.
Okay. I thank you very much for your efforts and wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Mayor Krauser. Thank you, Ms. Houston, and the rest of your party for coming. I've often heard reference to the need for something like this, and I'm really excited to see that you've established it, and to see where it heads, because I'm not sure that we know where we're going to end up together. How can we as council support you through this?
Hi, it's a question I can answer. We're hoping, as we explore further fundraising options, including grants, that once we know what grants we can apply to, then if you could direct us to who we should share that information with and get a support letter at that time when we know which kinds of grants we want to apply to or other kinds of support systems.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
And I think I'll add to that is just awareness and knowing that we're here and we're looking at different types of solutions outside of the big boulders and the rocks that we talk about. So community connectivity is huge. Also, yeah, pointing people in our direction. It's amazing how quickly people are coming and looking for our support to have their voices amplified because they're feeling shut out and don't know where to go because it truly is a real crisis.
If I were to try and connect someone with you, how would they do that? Do you have a website?
We do. We have a landing page set up, Canmoreland.com. We have a subscribe to our newsletter. So we're very new. We're weeks old. And yeah, so this announcement is truly the first step of many.
Awesome. Thank you.
Well, and hopefully coming today will help increase awareness beyond those of us at the table here, but there might be some stories or other community interest. And with regards to letters of support, you can always reach my office, and if it's something that I'm able to do, I will. Otherwise, I will direct to, if it's something more technical, direct that accordingly. Councillor McCallum.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for your presentation. So you are looking to expand your board and introduce yourself to the community. Have you engaged in any strategic planning? Do you have a business plan organized so that people can sort of understand more? Because I would say I understand very little at this point.
It's really difficult to put years of work into a 10-minute delegation.
Yeah, I understand
so,
that.
yeah, definitely. There's a lot more to talk about, and that will be part of our community engagements. Yes, we do have a business plan. Also, Ryan, Simon, and I have all been mentors for the Town of Canmore Smart Start Effective Business Planning class, where Dawn was a mentee. We've incorporated Dawn's business plan from that into this Canmoreland business plan also. We've taken it out, put it back in. The point being, this is a culmination of years of work fit into one mechanism.
Excellent, thank you. I look forward to seeing it.
Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for coming. I was just reading one part of your presentation where you speak about removing even one property from future speculation will effectively freeze the price of that property and in turn keeping it in control of the local community. What sort of mechanisms are you guys going to use to make that happen?
So social impact investing is a big one. We're looking for patient money, so money that operates differently outside of high interest loans, or that doesn't require return on interest early on. There's lots of types of social impact investing going on where it's called patient money. So people are able to float us loans at a lower interest rate and don't actually ask for return on investment for, say, first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So really it's opening up mindsets and giving people opportunities and different ways that they can help contribute to this solution in their own way. So.
Okay. And you guys would effectively, over time, build up, hopefully,
Exactly.
a bigger portfolio of properties. And okay, great. Thank you.
Councillor Merrow.
Thank you. Thank you for coming and presenting to us. I just have a couple questions. I know you're in infancy, but you've been working on this for a few years, you said. Have you, I know you're like just starting out, have you looked at also even acquiring like long-term leases and holding in like smaller, like into a lower rate of rental and doing more like co-op, like where 3 or 4 people, I know it's been done before and it wasn't just maybe who was doing it wasn't successful. Is that the sort of thing you're also looking at doing besides ownership?
So to give you some specific examples, even the land trust being able to secure a commercial lease and then sublet it to local business, we're fine through our research, we need about a $10 per square foot subsidy for local business to make it. So by becoming the landlord, we pay the rent, we've vetted who the tenant is, the tenant pays rent still, but predetermined, affordable, based on what we see their business doing. But yeah, we're now the landlord of commercial lease space. And then we can do that, we can also buy properties, we could buy an apartment, so really the solutions are many. We could fund tiny homes and put them in backyards.
One other question, if I may.
Yes, absolutely.
And do you think in the future, do you see yourself expanding, let's say, to closer communities to the east of us?
Yeah, we'd like to say we are truly the valley from Lake Louise to Manithni. Like there's a lot of opportunity there. Also, Canmore's so small that I really think, and it's such a wonderful place, I really think it has the opportunity to be a flagship in many ways. And land trusts are new. Community land trusts are new. They're just popping up. I would say we're early days. So yeah, we can make some really big impact and also take this model and encourage other municipalities.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Looking to see if there are any other questions. I see none. So thank you very much for coming today and sharing your message. As has been said, we wish you very well. And stay in touch if you need letters of support or something like that.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much.
We'll now move to item C1, minutes of September 19th, 2023, Committee of the Whole meeting. Any errors or omissions that anyone has picked up? Seeing none, I'll then move that the minutes of September 19th, 2023, Committee of the Whole meeting be approved as circulated. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. We'll move to item D1, staff reports. Canmore Community Monitoring Report. Ms. West, welcome to Committee of the Whole.
Good afternoon, Mayor and members of Council. Give me just a sec to get set up.
Absolutely, yep.
Good afternoon. My name is Elle West. I'm the Community Evaluator in the Community Social Development Department, and today I'm presenting you with an update on the Canmore Community Monitoring Report. I'll provide some history. I will describe the changes to the updating process, details of some of the updates made so far this year, and potential future direction for the report. And I'll leave time at the end for questions. The Town of Canmore has been tracking community indicators throughout the Canmore Monitoring Report since 1995. Historically, the Biosphere Institute of the Bow Valley updated the report, and a new report was released every 2 years. Whistler's Center for Sustainability was contracted to conduct a review of the report, and they built a web-based platform which went live in 2022. This year, the website was restructured to align with Council's strategic plan for 2023 to 26, and administration created a process to begin regularly updating the indicators. Let's have a look, since the town has a pretty new website recently. Once we open the Town of Canmore website and we find the Community Monitoring Report, we can see that it's broken into 2 sections. The Progress Monitoring and the Community Profile Report. The Profile Report shows demographic data about Canmore. It tells us information such as the population of our town, the median age of folks in Canmore, median income, education levels, and environmental conditions like the average temperature. When we look at the Progress Monitoring Report, we can see that it's broken down into sections, and these sections of livability, environment, and relationships are the same sections that are in the same goals as the strategic plan. Each section tells us about the goal and tells us why it's important. And the report goes on to show individual indicators related to these goals. For example, under the goal of livability, we have life satisfaction. We can expand any one of these indicators to read more about it. We can see data about how this information was gathered, and we can see the trend or how this data compares to years previous, and more information about the breakdown of this data. I won't show every one of the indicators because there's a lot and it would take time, and you have a breakdown of what updates have been done in your briefing note as well. The Community Monitoring Report was developed using the ArcGIS platform, which was selected because the town had a pre-existing license. This meant there were no additional costs associated with hosting the monitoring report on the ArcGIS platform. We also have an in-house ArcGIS coordinator who was an excellent resource in introducing me to the platform and training and supporting me so that I could begin to make updates. Whistler Center for Sustainability was also incredibly helpful in passing on the necessary information regarding the data collection and the methodology so that we can continue to update the report. Because updates can now be made internally without contracting an external resource, this results in greater flexibility, as updates can be done whenever data becomes available. As these updates are now part of my work plan, I can tell you about some of the changes that have been made. The Citizens' Perspective Survey was completed this year, and since that data became available recently, I was able to use this to update indicators. Under the goal of livability, this includes life satisfaction, quality of life change, community safety, and recreation opportunities. Under the goal of relationships, this includes sense of belonging, engagement perspectives, and inclusion, which were all updated with the new 2023 data. Updates have also been made with data from Canmore Community Housing, showing the average price for rental units of various sizes and the number of vacancies of each sized unit, in addition to the number of vital homes, both rental and ownership, that are available each year. Under the goal of environment, the total tons of greenhouse gas emitted each year was updated, and I believe there might be a typo in the briefing note that you have. It shows for greenhouse gases that our target is 191,000 tons. That should be for the year 2030, not the year 2023. Updates are ongoing. Some indicators that report annual averages will not be available until after the year end, and any data that is sourced from Statistics Canada will not be available until after the next census. Information will continue to be updated as data becomes available. In July, Council approved key results as a tool for measuring progress on the strategic plan, known as OKRs. The CCMR currently reflects the same 3 goals as the strategic plan, while some of the individual indicators in each section are not the same as Council's key results. We see an opportunity here to integrate reporting on Council's strategic plan into the CCMR. For example, Rome ridership is one of the key results in the strategic plan. We as a town do track ridership and we have that data available, but it's not currently shown in the CCMR. This is an example of something that we could update and make changes to. We don't have the ability in-house to make broad changes to the structure of the report, but we can adjust some of the indicators and update the data internally. In 2024, we will be working with Communications Department to adjust some of the indicators in the CCMR to better reflect the OKRs from Council's strategic plan. And moving forward, there may be additional opportunities to adjust the CCMR dashboard, and we'll report back as this work continues. Any questions on that?
Thank you very much for your presentation. I love statistics, and so these are going to be shortcuts on my desktop for sure. So looking to community of the whole to see if there are any questions. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Ms. West. I was wondering, I'm seeing a lot of 1 month rentals that are not 1 month rentals, priced exorbitantly, you know, $9,000, $10,000 for 1 month in a 4-bedroom house kind of thing. How does that data impact our report? Does it?
In the community monitoring report, the data that we use is from Canmore Community Housing. So what they compile is a list from all available listings in the community, from PICA, from Asset West, from wherever they might be found. So these are advertised listings. They're not necessarily the same price that everybody in the community is currently paying wherever they might be staying.
Right, so it could include those drastically different data sets.
Whatever somebody might be asking for, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Good question. Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you very much for being with us and for sharing with us today. I know you're not going very far because now it's item D2, 2023 Safe Park Program Evaluation.
Perfect. I will just swap out my notes. Hello again.
Yeah,
So
it's the
now I will
Ms.
be
West show.
presenting on the 2023 Safe Park program, which just wrapped up for the season. I'll give you a brief history of the program, details of this year's program in comparison to previous years, and some of the outcomes and challenges. I have presented the history of this program to you previously, so I'll move through this section quickly, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have at the end of the presentation. In February of 2020, the Safe Park pilot was approved with a mandate to create safe overnight parking to support Canmore's seasonal workforce. Due to the pandemic in 2020, the pilot was postponed until the next year. In 2021, the program began on June 15, and there were fewer than 5 participants registered that year. It was agreed a second pilot would be approved for 2020, and in that year, there was an increase in participation, but only moderately so. A total of 11 vehicles registered in the program. Some of those vehicles with 2 occupants, so there were a total of 13 people using the program in 2020. Council approved the Safe Park program for another year in 2023, and it was launched on June 1st. This year, there was a significant increase in participation. Here is a comparison of the last 3 years. In 2021, there were 17 inquiries, less than 10 applications, and less than 5 participants registered. In 2022, 39 inquiries, 26 applications, and 11 vehicles registered, for a total of 13 people in those vehicles. And this year, we had 71 program inquiries, 61 submitted applications, and a total of 50 vehicle permits were given out, accommodating 60 people in those vehicles. What was different this year from previous years? Here are the changes that were made to this year's program, based on feedback from last year. The number of parking lots was reduced from 4 to 2. This reduced locations where nightly security was needed, which reduced the cost of the program. This also simplified things for municipal enforcement by reducing the area to focus on patrolling. And it also reduced the cost of septic services, as a portable toilet was provided in each location. The Safe Park locations were simplified by having the program operate in designated parking lots rather than particular stalls in those lots. This helped municipal enforcement and nightly security to understand which areas to patrol and which vehicles to monitor. Previously, both the fee structure and the eligibility criteria required significant administration time. Last year, participants paid a fee of $10 a night, and collecting those payments and confirming eligibility every 2 weeks, as well as communicating who had paid and who hadn't with municipal enforcement, became logistically challenging to track and to monitor. Eliminating the reassessment and the renewal process removed these challenges. This year, a one-time fee was charged upon entering the program. This made the program more accessible to participants, as they could stay any night of the week, any number of nights throughout the summer without needing to visit the office and pay or renew. The total payment required this year was $150. $100 of that is a fee and $50 is a deposit. Deposits were kept to help track who leaves the program and to help ensure compliance with the program responsibility agreement. These changes resulted in lower barriers for participants in the program and reduced cost and time to administer the program. Aside from those changes, the program details remain the same as previous years. It ran from June 1st to September 30th. It ran each night from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. Security patrolled each lot twice nightly and were available for calls if there were a need for any. And we provided one bear-proof garbage bin and a portable toilet in each location. The eligibility requirements also remain the same as previous years. Each participant needed to show a valid driver's license, registration and insurance, and then proof of employment in the Bow Valley. At the last Safe Park presentation, if I remember correctly, there were questions about who is using the program and who isn't. So I have some more data for you about that. Of all the participants that chose to participate this year, the average age was 30 years old, and the gender was split evenly, 50% male and 50% female. The pie chart here shows the industry that the participants were employed in, and it might be hard to read those. The largest piece of pie up in the top right corner is food and beverage industry, 28%. Below that, and continuing clockwise, construction and labor at 23%, hotel at 12%, tours or guiding at 11%, community services, 9%, healthcare and education, 7%, government, 5%, and retail, 5%. And when I mention government, that's all three levels, provincial, federal, and municipal government. I also have some information on where the people came from, and we can see that it's everywhere. All of this year's participants were new to the program. There were no returning folks from last year. As people came into the office to show their eligibility for the program, I could also see that many were on work permits. So we can see that the program really is serving our seasonal workforce. There were a few folks who did not meet eligibility requirements, as they didn't show proof of being employed locally. But why were some people inquiring or applying and not registering the program? I heard back from a few who told me that they were able to find alternate accommodations. Usually this was in the form of a rental or shared accommodations with a friend. I also asked people when they came into the office to apply. So even the folks who were registered, I would ask, what else would you have done if it weren't for this program? What other options would you consider? Most said that camping was not available or too expensive, rentals were hard to find or too expensive, and there were more than a couple occasions when I asked this question of people face to face, they would break down into tears. And when they cried, I cried. And they would tell me that they didn't know what other option they would use. Most commonly, folks told me that they would still need to stay in their vehicles. They would just find a way to do so outside of town, or they would have to leave town and not be able to maintain their employment here. New to this year, some folks stated that they accessed private property, such as a driveway to park in. Even with the reduced cost of the Safe Park program this year, feedback from some folks was that private property is more desirable because they didn't have to move their vehicle at 8 a.m. and often they would have internet access provided and electricity as well. Throughout the program, we collected data related to the same three main outcomes as in previous years. The first being program demand and eligibility, which demonstrates a program need. As we saw in an earlier slide, there were 50 registered vehicles this year, accommodating 60 vehicles, a high demand for need. The second outcome was measured by program satisfaction. Each participant was given a survey, and they were asked to rate their satisfaction on a scale from 0 to 10, 10 being the most positive. The average rating is 8.5. I believe in the briefing note it says 8.2. I've simply collected more surveys since the time that note was written. Of the folks who did complete the survey, 93% said that they would recommend the program to others. 90% said that this program did help them maintain employment. 97% agreed that it was affordable. 93% said that they did feel safe while using the program, and 97% agreed that it was user-friendly. The third outcome is that the number of overnight parking violations was low. This year, there was 1 ticket given to a Safe Park program participant, and this was for leaving items outside their vehicle that constituted an animal attractant. There were also warnings given to other participants occasionally, both by municipal enforcement and by myself, when we saw things like awnings or tarps or a hammock being set up beside some lawn chairs. We did address it, and we did note, both municipal enforcement and myself, that this behavior changed when these warnings happened. No participants had their deposits withheld from them in this program. The work of the municipal enforcement team definitely had a positive impact on the program, not only by enforcing the behavior of those in the program, but by providing education to folks who were unaware of it. Some folks came into the office to sign up for the program directly after getting a knock on their window in the morning and being educated about the program's existence. Municipal enforcement interactions with those sleeping in their vehicle but not eligible for the program is also imperative, as word travels, and if people learn that they can camp for free, then there will be no incentive to sign up for the Safe Park program. Patrolling for unpermitted campers ensures that registered participants are the only ones benefiting from the Safe Park program. What we do see an increase in is tickets for illegal campers who are not eligible for the program. In the summer of last year, between the months of June and September in 2022, there were 34 tickets given for illegal campers, and this year, in the same months of the year, there were 59 tickets given. We need to be educating our community about the program to help reduce the stereotypes and stigma against the people participating in the program. Often, complaints from the community assumed that behaviors were done by Safe Park participants, conflating any undesirable behavior with the Safe Park program. We know the Safe Park participants, as we met them when they enrolled and saw their eligibility requirements. This allowed us to begin to build relationships with them and offer reminders or warnings if the need arose. When I was observing the lots throughout the summer, we saw other vehicles parked in or near the Safe Park areas, and often these folks were setting up lawn chairs, cooking, playing music, congregating in groups, and sometimes using the parking lot as a washroom. We also know from feedback from the Safe Park participants themselves that they were bothered by noise from other vehicles coming in and other people in the lots as well. So even when there is clear signage, such as the signs now installed at the entrance to town, as well as the signs in each lot, ongoing monitoring is required for the success of this program. And the cost to provide portable toilets and have them serviced regularly is high. To help mitigate the costs associated with the high use by general public, as well as the cost required to repair vandalism, combination locks were placed on the portable toilets this year, and the codes were given to the program participants. The Safe Park program has not been included in the budget for 2024. Continuing the Safe Park program is an option for Council to consider as part of the 2024 budget amendment process. We know it's difficult for folks to live here, especially short-term and seasonally, and this program allows folks to stay in town while they're employed locally with as much dignity as possible. For my final slide, I'll leave you with some quotes that were received from program participants this year. I really appreciate the program and I want to thank you for providing it to us. It allowed me to work in Canmore all summer. Thank you so much for creating this. Lots of people would be very lost without it. Not sure what else I would have done, and thanks for making this possible. It really changed my summer for the best. Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Ms. West, for this presentation. Question about those who would be parking in the area that are not part of the program. Would they be some of those that received the tickets for illegal parking?
Definitely some, yep. Municipal enforcement focused on those areas in the early mornings and targeted as many as they could.
Right, so then presumably these occurrences didn't become recurrences. They would have to move on. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you. Councillor Faubert.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Ms. West, for your presentation. What was the major factor that prevented some people from meeting the eligibility criteria?
Employment locally was the main criteria, and this was the only reason that some people were refused. In fact, what I would do is send an email back saying, hey, I noticed you supplied these documents. What I still need to see is this document, and I either would not hear back from them or would get some updated required info, and then they'll be eligible.
Were those circumstances where people were looking for employment, but they hadn't found it yet?
There
Or-
were a couple times we ran into that, and we were able to provide flexibility. There was one circumstance where I offered that we could allow somebody in temporarily for a 1 week or 2 week basis and be required to follow up once they did get employment, because of course, if they had no money and had no job yet, they couldn't pay the registration fee to begin with. They didn't take us up on that, but that is an option.
What was the motivation for people to apply for the Safe Park if they don't work here? Or they don't intend to get a job?
This program is specifically designed for folks who are employed locally and who are already living in their vehicles.
Okay.
The hope with that visitors who are not working here and are just visiting is that they use other services like campgrounds nearby.
Okay. And then, would you recommend changes to the eligibility criteria to get more, accommodate more people in the program, or are we dialed in right now?
I think the number of 50 vehicles is pretty much what we could handle regarding all the services we have, including municipal enforcement to patrol those lots. One thing that might be helpful is seeing a little more flexibility for folks who are not employees, but who are contractors or self-employed. We ran into a situation where somebody wanted to come into the program, but said they were self-employed and didn't have a business license to show. That was our ask, was, oh, can you show it some other way? How about a business license? And they didn't have that. But they also couldn't apply for one because without a home address, that wouldn't be possible.
Catch-22. Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Ms. West. Do you have any data on how many nights were utilized for stays? I'm also trying to understand the average number of nights. I know we've seen that data before in prior years, and I was curious.
I don't have that data this year because instead of renewing every 2 weeks, people paid in the beginning and stayed as long as they wanted. And some would stay for 7 nights a week, but many would not. I can tell you that even though there were 50 vehicles signed up, we very rarely ever saw those parking lots full of 50 vehicles. It would more often be 10 to 15 in each lot each night.
Okay. Thank you.
So 20 to 30 on any given night, split between the two. Okay, great, thank you. It's probably not a question for you, but I do have a question for administration. And perhaps we'll get into the, well, we'll obviously get into this in Finance Committee, but I was just wondering, just for a high level, why this wasn't included in the budget as status quo versus having it as an option. Dr. Cottle?
You directed us to include it for 1 year and to report back.
Okay, okay, because of that. So it wasn't because it's not being supported, it's because of that direction.
Right, so after the second pilot, we had put it in as status quo, and at the time of the deliberation on the 2023 budget, council requested an opportunity to give Ms. West some feedback, which you did at the start of the new year, for her to report back on the program, and then for you to decide after this year if you wanted to continue or not. So it was council's, this was the requested approach from council.
Perfect, thank you for refreshing my memory on that. Councillor Faubert, did you have another question? Okay, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I just didn't want to ask them all at once.
Yep, go ahead.
Ms. West, if we hadn't approved this program for 2023, and I understand if this is an impossible question to answer, what would we have maybe seen as a result in terms of where these people would have gone in our community?
There were some folks who told us where they were parking before June 1st and showed us on a map even. They were outside of town, but they also mentioned that they were happy to join the program and leave those spots because they were too crowded and they weren't sure they were able to find a spot every night. So we might see some of the folks still employed here, still living in their vehicles, but outside of the boundaries of the town. And I believe we would see some people leaving town as well.
Awesome. Thank you.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Ms. West. I'm really glad to see the increased numbers and the participation, that's amazing. We've come a long ways in a couple of years. You know, when we first were doing this, I was looking at these numbers going, oh boy, I don't know how this is sustainable. So congratulations on that success. I had one of my realtor friends who lives in his van, has most of his practice in Calgary, say, you know, I can't get into this program, and I told him to get a job locally. But we have a lot of people doing the van life thing these days that are making their money in other ways, online, whatever. Would those people qualify? Probably not.
It's a possibility. We could discuss it and consider it. I think at this time, because we already filled 50 spots with people who are employed locally and their work requires them to physically be in town to do their work, unless we had an increased supply of municipal enforcement officers or spaces to put the program in, I don't see how we could expand it much more.
Sure. And then would you mind going back to your slide around the demographics for me, please? Where they work, is this pretty consistent with the general population?
I have not made that comparison. I'm not sure.
I would of Canmore. Anecdotally, I would suspect that it is. Thank you very much.
Interesting question. Councillor Faubert.
Thank you. One more. You mentioned entrance signs. Is that to the community or to the parking lots?
I believe there have been signs installed at the entrance to town. I'll get municipal enforcement
I
to
haven't
confirm.
seen them, and we have a lot of signs. Some entrances of town.
Yes, there have been new signs that have been installed at all entryways to Canmore, as well as the parking lots.
What do they say?
No overnight parking from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. And then the entryways of Canmore actually have pictographs.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like safe park.
Yeah.
And I was like, what? That's amazing. No, anyways. I'm just going to say I'm really grateful because I know that we had a lot of debate at Budget Committee or Finance Committee last year around bringing this program back in 2023 because we saw 2 years of a pilot with really low numbers. But I think this year was the year that the recovery really, we see it in the amount of people living in their vehicles. And I want to say, like, it's a mixed thing for me because I don't want us to have to do this. I want us to house people, but we can't house everyone right now. And so I'm glad that we have another option to keep people safe. So thank you for your work.
Agreed. Dr. Cottle.
I just want to acknowledge, I don't know if Officer Hunter has ever presented to council before, so I'm not sure if you all know her. But just wanted to acknowledge, I think this is your first time speaking at council, is it? Yeah, so good job. And it's Amanda Hunter, who's one of our CPOs.
Thank you for being here today. Councillor Graham.
I had a comment around your comment, but now I got distracted. As someone who lived in their van I've had a van for almost 10 years now and spend almost every summer in it, and I prefer to spend my time through the summers. People choose to live in that. There are some of us that don't see that as a hardship, but as a privilege. But my question is around, I see a lot of people still, when I drive down to Exshaw, parked along the sides of the road there, and I'm wondering if the MD is looking to address that.
I have been reaching out to other communities, including communities in BC who have high tourist numbers who come in and sleep in their vehicles, but I have not been able to get in touch with anybody in the MD yet to ask if they're noticing the effect. I'd also be curious to hear if Kananaskis is experiencing that as well. I do know when I sent out emails saying the program is ending September 30th, a few wrote back and said they wish they could have stayed longer.
Especially this month, it's been so stunningly beautiful outside. Okay, thank you very much.
I don't see any, I do see Councillor Hillstad.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation.
For the $100 per season price point, is that where if this program were to come back, is that where we're looking, or is there any thoughts on if that needs to go up or down, or?
The price certainly helped encourage the people to join up and reduce the barrier for them in doing so. We heard from multiple people themselves and other agencies like the library who told us that people were asking about it and happy about the price this year. There were a couple of comments in the surveys where people said if it helped keep the program alive, they would be willing to pay a little bit more. And I also personally ran into people occasionally who said that they would not sign up because they had to pay money and they were doing their best to not pay anything.
Yep.
I don't know that there's a perfect number where we're going to make everybody happy. Is there room to increase? I think there might be some.
Yeah, like just look like it looks like outside of the staffing costs, basically it almost covers itself, but because we're returning the deposits, that's when we actually have a shortfall, is because of just that. So I was just curious if we were looking at just, to cover the other costs for, the porta potties, the security and things, like if there's a price point that would cover the base costs and keep it, again, like just basically run itself and outside of the salary cost, because obviously I have to charge a lot more to cover that cost. So, but I was just curious. So, thank you.
Thank you. See no other questions. I just want to make the comment that I'm very appreciative of this program. Probably back in 2016 or so, 2017, when the issue came up of greater enforcement of people sleeping in their vehicles in neighborhoods and whatnot. I was very concerned that we were enforcing something without having a compassionate response. And I believe that this is a compassionate response for the summertime. I believe that the Homelessness Society of the Bow Valley brings a compassionate response in the wintertime. And so having these sorts of things available where people really need them, and granted some it's by choice, but some it's by necessity, it really helps balance it in my mind, because some people are really struggling, and who knows, because of this, the person was able to, whether it be for the season or maybe they're able to then find a place to live and stay a little bit longer and with a roof over their heads. And so I really appreciate this program and look forward to the discussion further at Finance Committee. And so thank you very much for that today. And we're going to move to the next item, but I'm just wondering if Councillor Graham, can you help identify which window is blinding Mr. Colgan? Or oh, that'd be great. Thank you, Councillor Faubert. There we go. Thank you very much to both of you.
Oh, yeah, that's right in my eye. Yeah, it's like, ooh.
Oh, are you okay there, or do you need another one shut there? Yeah, let's.
Yeah,
yeah.
that'd be good.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's like, it's this one right there. No, one right, yep.
There we go.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Faubert. All right, Ms. Miller, you are here for item D3, launch of Connect Downtown, planning a vibrant town center. Welcome to the community of the whole.
Thank you. So good afternoon, Mayor and members of Council. Again, the Planning Department, no yawning, this is exciting. It's an exciting thing happening. We're here to launch another exciting project that will shape the future of Canmore's downtown, and in creating an area redevelopment plan. This is not going to be your grandparents' version of planning. Just letting you know now. This, along with the Palliser ASP, as well as this project, is really a new chapter for the Planning Department as well as the town. Administration plans on taking a very different approach than what has been done in the past. So we plan on being bold. We plan on exploring new and innovative ways of engaging with the community, particularly with segments of the population who may not normally engage in processes like these. We want to explore new land uses. We want to talk about new ways of moving through and experiencing this very special place that is our downtown, and creating a place where people from all places, all ages, and all abilities can connect with each other and our community. Now, there are going to be a lot of stakeholders who will be engaged as part of this conversation of reimagining what downtown can be. But I want to stress that this plan is not intended to focus just on tourism or attracting or appealing to visitors. The needs and desires of locals will be significant in the importance and creation of this plan. Our intention is to affirm, establish, or even reestablish a connection with Canmore's core, which is why from now on, instead of referring to it as the Downtown Area Redevelopment Plan, which is pretty much a mouthful, we will be referring to it as Connect Downtown, with the tagline, Planning a Vibrant Town Center. So, I hope that all those here today, as well as those watching at home, will start to think about why they do or don't connect with downtown, and how moving forward together we can figure out how to reestablish that connection, how to strengthen that connection, and how to enhance that connection. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Cairns. He's our senior policy planner here at the town and the project manager for this project, to walk through the details and all the fun, and I do mean fun, that we have planned for the next year and a half. So take it away, Josh.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Mr. Cairns, welcome to Committee of the Whole.
Thank you. I think Ms. Miller stole my thunder with that great intro, so I'm not sure how much I can inspire after that, but I'll do my best with this presentation and walking you through everything. Great, so my presentation should be up on the screen for everyone in chambers. So as Ms. Miller said, we are kicking off publicly the planning process for a new area redevelopment plan for downtown that we're calling Connect Downtown. And so before we dive in, it's helpful to get a little bit of context as to how we got here. So way back in 1998, so about 25 years ago now, Council adopted what was called the Town Center Enhancement Concept Plan for the downtown and surrounding area. So the concept plan was really intended to serve as a high-level roadmap, just to inform how development of the downtown area could happen over time. So to really achieve this goal, the concept plan provided a high-level urban design framework, along with some strategies it recommended for implementation over the following 15 years. While some elements of the Town Center Enhancement Concept Plan were implemented, such as the siting of the Civic Center, some enhancements to the trail network, the need to provide an updated and more comprehensive plan emerged in recent years due to some mounting pressures from population growth, rising tourism, worsening housing affordability, shifts in consumer demands, and then finally the seasonal pedestrianization of Main Street, which was initiated to support COVID-19 social distancing requirements. So in 2019, acknowledging the need to update this plan, a project team was formed and scoping begun for the creation of a brand new master plan. However, just as the project had officially launched publicly, the pandemic arrived and it resulted in an indefinite suspension of that initiative. Fast forward 2 years later, we emerged from the pandemic, and Council approved a capital budget for the creation of an area redevelopment plan for the downtown area. This came from the acknowledgement that, as a statutory plan, an ARP could probably be the more appropriate tool and capable of providing a more robust and integrated policy framework for guiding growth and change in the downtown area moving forward. Scoping of this work was initiated in summer 2023, following conclusion of the expedited review of the Palliser Trail Area Structure Plan. That brings us to the public introduction to this initiative today. Before we dive in, it's always helpful to set the stage for where area redevelopment plans, or ARPs, fit within the broader policy perspective. So on the one hand, our highest level document is the Municipal Development Plan, which really provides that overarching long-range direction for the community. Then we have area redevelopment plans, which take a certain subsection of the area that's already been developed in the past and provide a new vision, direction, and set of policies to inform future development in that area and ensure it aligns with the directions of the Municipal Development Plan. And then implementation of the ARP will take place in several different ways, but that does include amendments to the land use bylaw, which sets out the more detailed requirements that guide building form, heights, parking requirements, setbacks, things of that nature. So, why create an ARP for downtown? I touched on this briefly in the past slide, but it's really important to iterate that the creation of an ARP will mean the replacement of a higher level concept plan with a more robust statutory plan that will provide additional clarity, certainty, direction, and impact. An ARP for this area will support the long-term vibrancy and vitality of the downtown area by articulating a comprehensive vision supported by a detailed set of policies that will all work together in unison over the next 25 years, bringing us to the year 2050. So while area redevelopment plans can look a little bit different and they can contain different items within them, we really envision the area redevelopment plan for downtown containing 4 key components: a public realm plan, a land use concept, set of development policy, and an implementation framework, and I'll explain each of these in more detail. So the first key output will be a public realm plan, and really at its core that asks the question, what is the function and appearance of our future public space network downtown? So this public realm plan could articulate the future transportation network in the downtown area. It could also articulate the future public space network that the transportation connections link us to. It could also envision this location, scale, or even the function of some of these key public spaces such as parks and plazas. But perhaps most importantly is that the public realm plan will help provide a future vision for Main Street, exploring its role and its conceptual design, and answering the question of its continued temporary or permanent pedestrianization. Complementing the public realm plan will be a brand new land use concept for downtown, which asks the question, what forms of development do we want to enable or see in the downtown area over the long term? This could articulate the desired land uses, such as commercial and residential, the permitted densities or heights that we envision, as well as some of the building typologies, whether that's townhouses, low-rises, mid-rises, and so on. This is similar to what you see in other ASPs or area redevelopment plans that we have at the town, and visually could look something similar like the map shown on the screen here, which is from one of Calgary's area redevelopment plans. Third, we have development policy. And these really look to ask the question, what should new development look like and how can it align with town objectives and priorities? Development policy would cover a pretty broad range of topics, including everything from urban design, such as the appearance of private and public spaces, affordable housing, sustainability in the environment, as well as transportation. And that could include new directions for the area, as well as a review of the town's cash in lieu approach to parking. And then finally, we get to the fourth output, the implementation framework. This is really critical for this ARP, and it's asking the question, what are the steps, timing, and resources for implementing the plan? This ambition comes out of a desire for us to move beyond the idea of plans for plans, and instead make sure this is the plan for downtown, and that the visions and the directions we put in it can be realized over time. So the Connect Downtown process will explore a variety of interconnected topics and questions, all of which will affect the look, feel, and the function of downtown. For example, some of these questions could include, what is the future function and role of Main Street? What is the look and feel of the public realm and the open space network? Where is future development and what should that look like? Are there any opportunities to achieve more attainable or affordable housing? What is the future demand for services and infrastructure to meet this population growth? What will the transportation network and transit system look like, and how can it move people efficiently between spaces? And it could also include looking at how can the long-term demand and supply of parking be managed? And this will be really critical for the downtown core, as well as some of the surface parking lots that the town owns in the area. So although those questions will be explored and answered through this process, it's important to set some natural boundaries and manage expectations early on so that we can improve transparency in this process. Connect Downtown will result in an ARP for downtown. As such, it will not look for ways to make the area quieter or less welcoming to residents and visitors. Quite the opposite, in fact. The ARP will acknowledge and support the area's continued growth and evolution as Canmore's town center, and its role as a place where people can gather, shop, dine, and interact. Similarly, we also need to acknowledge that while there's always room for improvement, a lot does actually work in downtown today. And the ARP will look to build off some of these present successes and then provide a framework to ensure that any future change is supported in a way that strengthens the area's vibrancy and vitality as the town's town center. So to do an ARP for downtown, we obviously need to define what it is we mean when we say the downtown area. The map shown here is the study area for the ARP, which you'll see extends to the Bow River to the west, Railway Avenue to the east, the Spur Line Trail to the north, and then 5th Street to the south. Now, some may notice the area is larger than the current commercial area, or what some might think of downtown today. And I'll walk through some of the rationale for this momentarily, but the larger area provides several benefits from a planning perspective, and it includes the ability to consider downtown as a whole. How we find our ways there, how the area looks and feels, how we navigate to the spaces around it, as well as how we use or engage with places such as parks, schools, Policeman Creek, Bow River, and other assets in the area. So while I can show a map and explain the boundaries of the study area, it's important to define what we actually mean by study area. In the case of Connect Downtown, the study area refers to the general area that will be examined through the planning process. This means that while it does include potential areas of change, such as properties where changes to land use might be considered, it also includes the broader areas of impact, which refers to areas that might be affected or impacted by such changes, whether that is through changes to land use, the transportation network, or the distribution of nearby public spaces. We do anticipate that only certain locations within this broader study area will be identified for land use changes, which we're referring to as areas of change. And those changes would be identified through the planning process and informed by research, analysis, community, and stakeholder engagement. So with that understanding about the study areas in mind, we can look back to what it means and its boundary, and why the boundary is where it is. So first, we have several gateways that can be explored through this process, which refers to areas that mark the transition, or the entrance, or the arrival to downtown. Connect Downtown will examine these gateways and consider how they could be enhanced in a way that signals to residents and visitors where they are and where downtown is, while also creating a special sense of arrival for when they do come. We also have several key destinations within the study area that we'll want to explore the long-term use and function of, as well as answer some questions around how we can improve access to these areas. This includes Riverside and Centennial Parks, the Bow River and the pathway along it, the commercial heart of downtown, and even the Winter Pond just north of downtown, to name a few. And then finally, we also have several underutilized areas that will be considered within the study area, including the relatively underdeveloped stretch of land off Railway Avenue, as well as the various surfing parking lots owned by the town, which serve as an important role in facilitating access and visitation to downtown, while also providing potential for other uses, since we'll look at parking management in a more holistic and integrated manner through this process. So how are we going to do it? Connect Downtown will proceed through 4 phases of work, and I'll go through each one in a row. First is pre-launch. This phase, as of today, is concluded. This phase of work was about scoping the project, preparing for its launch, and that includes conducting the background research, the creation of a multi-department technical team that's going to advance the work, and then the drafting of a project charter to act as our guiding document as we proceed. That brings us to kicking off the 3 public-facing phases of work, which starts with the vision phase. The vision phase will focus on working with the community to establish a future vision for downtown. It's anticipated this is going to involve tools like asset mapping, where we'll work with the community to identify and understand areas of value or significance, and then also forward-looking visioning, where we can collaboratively explore what a future downtown can look and feel like to residents and visitors. From there, with that vision in mind, we'll move into the options or concepts phase of work. This phase will involve preparing different land use and transportation concepts that support that community vision that we established in the previous phase. So, for example, this work could include articulating different options for land use downtown, where we distribute building types in different manners to illustrate some of those trade-offs, as well as even different conceptual designs for Main Street that demonstrate what the street could look like under a permanent pedestrianization, a partial pedestrianization, or a continuation of the temporary closure as we do today. And then from there, we'll move into the final phase of work, which is the draft plan phase. This phase will involve taking everything we heard from the community in the previous phases, refining the concepts as necessary, and then drafting the actual ARP itself before bringing it to council for consideration. So we anticipate, well, today actually we're concluding the pre-launch phase and then officially launching the public-facing phase today along with the public webpage. Our vision phase is anticipated to span from October to February, where we'll conduct community engagement over the winter to identify some of town's assets, opportunities, and create a future vision for the area. When we kick off the options phase of work, that's going to be anticipated to stretch from February 2024 to September. And over this period, we'll, as I mentioned, prepare a few different concepts: land use, transportation, public realm, and bring those to the community for feedback, which we anticipate taking place over the middle of summer. Once we wrap that up, we'll refine the concept into preferred vision and option and begin drafting the RP itself, which we're targeting for council consideration no later than March 2025. And that gives us an 18-month timeline from project launch to completion, which is a really appropriate timeline for this phase of work, but one that we can also achieve and adhere to. So this slide just breaks down some of those key milestones into some of the major components of work behind to give an idea of what the community can expect. At this stage, as we launch the visioning phase, the key takeaways are we're doing a lot of internal, multi-departmental engagement, kicking off some conversations with stakeholders, and doing a lot of our background research and analysis. Coming to the community for more of the public-facing engagement, likely in January with a focus in February. From there, we'll develop some concepts over the spring and move into the external engagement period during the summer months, likely focusing around July. From there, we refine it through the fall, and we anticipate another round of external engagement on the actual draft plan itself around the new year, 2025. So I mentioned on the last slide engagement, when that's going to occur. And it's important to also talk about the theory or the approach behind it as part of this project. As Ms. Miller mentioned, our philosophy here is to try to inspire. So in the development of this plan, there's an opportunity to really shape the future public experience downtown. Look at how people travel, how they gather, and how they interact with the downtown area. So what that means is an engagement. Connect Downtown will shift away from a heavy reliance on conventional methods, like open houses, for example, and look to incorporate more innovative techniques that might be better suited for supporting visioning, creativity, and even interaction with the physical space. So to highlight what some of those tools could be, really we're trying to make sure there's going to be multiple opportunities to provide input at key touch points over the project's lifespan. That includes a hybrid approach with digital tools and then in-person engagement. So we will still make sure some of those more conventional methods are available at each step of the way, but supplementing those with a more robust in-person engagement that does hear from other groups. So that includes engaging with youth, who we typically don't hear from in this, even though they're going to be a critical group that is actually going to be interacting with downtown as adults in the 25-year time span of the plan. In addition, we're looking at how we can actually activate spaces as a form of engagement. Can we do pop-ups? Can we actually do public realm enhancements to showcase to the community what it is we're looking at creating in the downtown area as we try to make it a more vibrant town center? So that's the brief overview of this project that we're really excited to kick off. And if the public is looking for access and information, our project webpage is going to be live imminently at mycanmore.ca/connect downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cairns. And thank you for that presentation. I'm very excited about this. There were, in fact, two ASPs that when this council was elected, we brought to the front burner, and that was the Palliser Trail and this one. And so very happy to see that this is launching. And I'm looking to council to see if there are any questions. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Mr. Cairns. I kind of want to step back a little bit and discuss Spring Creek. And I don't know that we actually discussed Spring Creek at our last meeting. And the reason I really keyed on this today is because when you had your circles for the gateways, that entrance from Spring Creek into downtown wasn't on there. I guess my question to you is, what are the pros and cons of including Spring Creek in this? What are we calling it now? Give me the new name.
Connect Downtown. Connect Downtown.
Connect Downtown. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Graham, for the question. It's a good one. It's a good observation, too. When we charted out some of those gateways on that map that you noticed, we did sort of highlight the general Spring Creek area as a gateway, along with where that street connects to Railway Avenue. Obviously, that was just for visual simplicity. It's not meant to be representative of exactly where these gateways are. But certainly, the integration with Spring Creek is going to be really important as part of this process. Some parcels were left out of the Spring Creek ARP because they weren't under the developer's ownership at the time, and we're going to be including those in this process to make sure they're looked at. And in addition, while the study area is including the areas that we're really examining deeply, it's always helpful to remind that we have to draw boundaries somewhere, and that doesn't mean that we are going to overlook what's on the other side of that arbitrary line. So when we look at connectivity, when we look at access, when we look at possible public art or gateway features or land use changes, we're also going to be looking at what that's connecting to on the other side, and those boundaries become more of a blurred line.
So you're comfortable leaving Spring Creek out?
Since Spring Creek has its own ARP, that ARP is not going to be opened up as part of this process. However, the creation of the downtown ARP is going to consider how to best integrate with that future direction, given it is largely being developed as we speak.
Thank you. I appreciate that you guys have really considered that factor, and I appreciate your answer. Thank you.
Councillor Faubert?
Thank you for your presentation. I'm curious about how our process with Connect will work with the business improvement area organization. I see in Councillor Ma's update in the report that the BIA is expected to work with the U of C's urban labs. So how will the findings from their process interface with what we're doing through this process?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Faubert. The BIA we're seeing as a key stakeholder in this process. Given their level of involvement and interest, they're one of the groups that we've actually been having touch points with through this, including through the scoping, to make sure that we're on the same page as what the ARP is going to do. Our efforts are going to be aligned. There's opportunities for partnership and also synergies. And one of those synergies is what you mentioned. The BIA is very keen on advancing their sort of own internal visioning process. That's likely going to take place this fall. So we have talked about timelines and how those can relate. And what that's going to do is when we do our stakeholder engagement, it's going to help them come to the table with a bit more of their own unified vision that can help feed into this process to make sure that that ARP helps encapsulate some of their voices.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Councillor Ma?
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for planning from Ms. Miller and Mr. Cairns for your great work here. Kind of further to the BIA piece, working with urban labs, they're chugging along. I haven't heard much recently of what's going on, but there will be a piece where I feel the downtown BIA feels like going through that process with urban labs. It kind of helps sharpen up what they feel they should bring to the table when it comes to this process with Connect Downtown. Question for Mr. Cairns: what are some of the, maybe you're not allowed to tell us yet, what are some of the fun, innovative ways that people can expect to connect for engagement?
Yeah, that's a good question. We're crafting those out as we speak, but really one of the key pilots we're looking at doing is an activation of public spaces as one of our more innovative tools. We're looking at more innovative online tools as well, but really one of the big pivots is what can we do in place of a more formalized, like in-person engagement that actually helps people envision the area a little bit more and help understand what it is an ARP like this can actually accomplish. So we're looking at options right now that could include potentially closing a section of Main Street or a street downtown, or some of the public spaces, and then actually activating those with public realm and community engagement activities. So what's great about that is the visioning phase is going to take place over the winter, so that helps give us an opportunity to help show people what can we actually do downtown in the winter months if we do actually invest in the public spaces or improve them. It doesn't just have to be a place for summer gathering, it can be more of a year-round space. So that's what we're hoping to accomplish through this.
All right, thank you very much. Look forward to seeing it.
Will there be cake?
Snowball fights?
Ms. Miller?
Yeah.
There might be cake in the budget. We'll let you know. We'll keep you posted on that.
Awesome.
I just wanted to expound on Mr. Cairns' comments that part of this innovative approach is really moving more to an experiential approach, and rather than just kind of talking about what we'd like and like thinking about in our mind and thinking that we're all on the same page about what we're imagining in our minds, like let's actually go somewhere. Let's actually go to a space, be in it together, and then be able to talk about what does it feel like? What would we like to improve about it? And so, again, making those connections in a different way than what kind of is traditionally done, where you're just kind of hoping that we're all visioning the same thing and that it will hopefully one day look like this. Now we can actually say, this is what it will likely look like in the future. How does that resonate for you? And so that's kind of the biggest part that people will see will be different, and then talking more about people's experience, both now and in the future. So as Mr. Cairns mentioned, how are the youth of Canmore experiencing downtown? Because ultimately they will become the stewards of that space if they remain in our community, which is our ultimate hope. So that was the kind of the key thing that you can all look forward to, is talking more from a place of actual experience and rather just thoughts and hopes and dreams.
Thank you for that. Looking to see if there are any other questions. I usually say seeing none, and then Councillor Hillstad hits his button. Okay. All right. Seeing none, thank you very much, Mr. Cairns.
Thank you.
And so happy that this is launched, and thank you for your good work in this. Okay. Well, I'm tempted to take a break. We only have a short time left, if history is any guide. So we will turn now to item E1, Councillor Updates. Let's just cut to the chase. Anybody have any questions on any of the updates? Wide open. Okay. Councillor Hillstad.
I was just curious with the contract awarded for the Stewart Creek Rise project, if we have an idea of project timeline, like when's things going to get moving? I'm just curious, since we've selected someone, when can we look to see things going in, or do we have that timeline yet?
Yep, sorry.
I'm in my CCH agenda. Oh, here we go. I think in terms of getting in the ground, we're looking at 2024 early. But in the meantime, because it's a contract with both Ashton Construction and Montaigne Architecture, we're the design process and what's going to be proposed, then the development permit, building permit. But because we rezoned it, we're able to now move forward with all that work. So having named a successful contract award recipient, that stuff is happening now. So, yeah.
Sounds good, thanks.
Thank you, good question. Any other questions on any of the council member updates? Oh, psyching me out there. Oh, Councillor Ma.
Anything to report, Councillor Hillstad?
Okay.
As you can see in the report, no, because I didn't have any, no meetings.
Nothing new. So there's just a clerical item, the numbering in that section. It restarted after Councillor Hillstad restarted at 2. Yeah, so. Okay. Any other questions? Seeing none, we'll move to the administrative updates and looking to see if there are any questions with regards to Section A, CAO's office. Section B, municipal services. C, corporate services. D, municipal infrastructure. Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the e-bike incentive program, did we actually approve that? We did? I thought it got... Okay, that's all I needed was a yes. Thank you. For 2024. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ma.
Thank you, Your Worship. With regards to the existing fire hall, are there going to be additional shared uses in the space, or is it solely protective services?
So, as was discussed at the council meeting when the decision framework was brought forward and the uses were discussed and presented, protective services will be the main occupant of the building. There are some leftover spaces, and we are looking at taking those out to expression of interest to see what other users in the community may find that space useful for them, given the requirements that we would have to kind of co-locate with protective services.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Looking to see if there are any other questions with respect to the administrative update. Now, as part of the administrative update, and I'm very happy to see this, I don't have a question, but I just love getting the updates every quarter on the council strategic plan, and just draw everybody's attention to the bold are the new additions. Councillor Graham, did you have a question?
I did. I too really appreciate this section. And I wonder have we had an update on the Happy Pad, and if anybody can tell me how many subscriptions we've had there yet?
I don't have that off the top of my head, but we can include that in a future admin update.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. And we also have the OKRs there as well. So this is really good information, and it just helps us turn our attention to our priorities and making sure that they're on track. And I know that this information, when we have a strategic planning session in January, will be very informative to that process. Any other questions whatsoever? Council resolution action lists, any of the others, items I just mentioned? Seeing none, I will now move that we adjourn. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.